Book 1, The Clearing. I couldn't sleep that night. I don't know why exactly. There was no noise, no argument, no troubling thought that I could pinpoint. Just that sense of being trapped in my own head, like my room had suddenly shrunk while the walls pressed closer with every breath. The clock on my nightstand ticked too loud, like someone was counting down. I pulled on boots, shoved a jacket over my shoulders, and walked out the door. The air was cool but not cold, scented faintly with pine and damp earth from the early morning dew. The ridge trail behind my property called to me, as it often did, but tonight it felt different. The forest was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hyper-aware of your own presence. Every footstep sounded louder than it should have, every snapped twig a possible warning, and yet I kept walking, letting the familiar path guide me upward, feeling the soil compacted from years of footsteps under my boots. Looking up at the sky, the moon hung low, almost a full silver disk over the ridge. Stars were scattered across the dark, nothing extraordinary, except for the sense that the night had stretched somehow, that the world was holding its breath with me. I reached a small clearing and stopped. The silence was heavier here. Even the cicadas had fallen still. Something in me, instinct more than thought, told me to keep moving, but the pull was irresistible. I stepped forward, unaware that I was heading straight toward the impossible. It started as a streak, a bright line cutting through the sky. At first I thought it was a shooting star, something ordinary to explain the thrill of movement, but it slowed. It didn't disappear. The light hovered above the clearing, silent, bright but not blinding, like a lantern dropped from the heavens. I froze, unsure whether to flee or stay, my heart hammering. The night seemed to press in around me, the forest holding itself in tense anticipation. It touched the clearing with a weightless presence. The air around it shivered. The heat from the sun, long gone, left a memory on my skin. The ground felt the same as always, but my chest was tight, like my body had noticed before my eyes could. I tried to make sense of it. Drone, weather balloon, some secret government experiment. Nothing fit. This wasn't ours. It didn't belong. Then it began to move. The distortion in the air rippled, like heat on asphalt, and from it emerged a shape, taller than me, thin, and fluid, its body shifting in a way that made my mind rebel. Colors rippled across its form, pale blues, muted greens, silvers, like oil on water. I thought I saw eyes, faint glimmers that blinked in and out, but they never stayed. And yet somehow I knew it was looking at me. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. My chest tightened, my ears rang faintly. My first thought, absurd in the moment, was, if someone finds out about this, no one will believe me. Then I heard it. Not with my ears, not aloud, not anywhere in the clearing. It was inside my head, calm and clear. Do not fear. I staggered back, almost tripping. My voice came out as a whisper. Are you real? Yes, you are real. So am I. I laughed nervously, though it came out shaky and breathless. Good. Just checking. The being tilted its head slowly, shifting colors across its body in a way that felt like acknowledgement. You did not run, it said. I wanted to, I admitted, my voice catching, but I couldn't. The colors flickered, and though it had no mouth or face I could recognize, I felt it almost smile. Yet you stayed. That is enough. It moved closer, one careful step at a time. The air itself seemed to ripple, bending light like heat above asphalt. Each step it took made the ground feel oddly softer, though nothing actually changed. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my skull. I wanted to speak, but my voice stuck somewhere between fear and disbelief. The being's body continued to shift, light flowing in subtle waves across its chest and shoulders. Blues deepened, silvers shimmered faintly, greens pulsed. The colors responded to me, my heartbeat, my breaths. It raised one arm slowly, palm outward, a gesture, not threatening, not aggressive, just present. We do not wish harm, came the voice again, inside my mind. I whispered back, then, what do you want? To see, it replied. What? To see what? To see if you were ready, it said. My stomach twisted. Ready for what? I didn't know. I wanted to take a step back, but my body didn't move. Instead, I stayed, listening, feeling. The shimmer behind it pulsed faintly, a reminder that whatever this was, it wasn't entirely of this world. Step forward, it said. I froze. I didn't consciously move, yet somehow I was closer. Some instinct, some quiet courage, had pushed me toward it. I realized then what it meant. The test wasn't about fighting or fleeing. It was about willingness, about presence. And that was all it asked? The clearing felt impossibly still. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, a slow drumbeat that seemed far too loud for such a quiet night. The being raised its arm again, subtle movements that didn't create air displacement or sound, yet somehow demanded my attention. "You're afraid, yet you remain," it said inside my head. I swallowed hard, fingers tightening against my jacket. I don't know why," I whispered. Even saying it aloud felt wrong. The words trembled and nearly disappeared before they left my mouth. "Because you see the moment as it is. Fear is natural. Flight is possible. Choice is yours." I wanted to argue, to say I wasn't choosing anything, but I couldn't. The truth was heavier than I expected. I had stayed. That was enough to meet their attention. That, in itself, felt like a decision. Then the shimmer behind it pulsed, faintly at first, then stronger, and the world seemed to stretch and bend. I blinked, and suddenly flashes of human moments, fragments of memory, not mine, but somehow intimately familiar, invaded my thoughts. A child sharing half a sandwich with a stray dog, strangers linking arms to pull someone from a rushing river, someone helping an old neighbor across the street. They weren't stories, not as I'd ever heard them in school or books. They were raw, immediate, small acts of kindness, simple but remarkable in their persistence. "Do you see?" the voice asked, not in words, exactly, but in meaning. "Your kind is capable of this, always capable, and yet." I shivered. And yet what? The being's colors shifted rapidly, silver, green, pale blue, and I felt their intensity press against my chest. "And yet it is fragile. The sparks are easily drowned. We watch to see which survive." I staggered back a step, clutching at the dirt for balance. My mind spun. Sparks, fragile sparks, and me, standing here like some random witness. "Why me?" I croaked. The words escaped before I could stop them. "There are billions of humans. Why now? Why here? Why me?" A wave of color passed across its chest, deeper green and silver swirling together. "Because you stepped forward." I shook my head. "I didn't. I just froze. I couldn't move." The being's light pulsed faintly, slow and deliberate. "That is forward enough." The weight of the words pressed into my chest. My legs trembled. I wanted to collapse, but I couldn't look away. I felt something, recognition, perhaps, in a way humans rarely experience with one another. I wasn't judged, I was considered. Then the vision began to intensify, not through words, but feelings, warmth, despair, hope, courage. I felt a breadth of human kindness and cruelty compressed into a few moments, all layered in my mind at once. I gasped, my hand flying to my chest. I can't carry all of this," I whispered. "You are not expected to, only to witness, only to carry what you can." My knees buckled, and I sank slightly, leaning on a nearby tree. My whole body hummed with the intensity of it, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't just being shown what humanity could do. I was being asked to understand it, deeply, and to carry that understanding forward in whatever small ways I could. The being took another slow step closer. The air between us rippled again, faint but real. I felt a strange vibration, almost like static electricity in my bones. My chest tightened, my throat dry. Every instinct screamed at me to step back, but I didn't. I realized then that the test had never been physical. There were no threats, no attacks, no impossible demands. The test was presence, awareness, courage in the face of the incomprehensible. I held out my hand, almost instinctively, not boldly, not with confidence, trembling, hesitant, unsure if it would even register. The being's form rippled in response, a gentle pulse that made my skin prickle. I could feel it, though there was no contact. "This is enough," it said. The words carried warmth I hadn't expected. They were not congratulatory, not indulgent, just affirmation. Enough. I understood, faintly, that the encounter didn't require heroism or skill, only willingness to remain, to see, and to acknowledge. I dropped my hand, shivering. "I don't know what to do now," I admitted. The shimmer behind it pulsed once, like a heartbeat. "Stand, watch, remember, you are enough for this moment." And then, slowly, the being stopped moving. The colors on its form dimmed, settling into faint pulses that matched my own heartbeat. For the first time since it appeared, I felt almost calm. I didn't know if it was leaving, if it had always been testing me, or if there would be more. I didn't even know if this had really happened, but I knew one thing, something inside me had changed forever. After a long pause, I felt the air around me thicken, The shimmer behind the being pulsed faintly, like it was preparing me for something more. My legs shook, but I remained rooted in place. I wasn't sure if it wanted me to stay or if my body simply refused to move. Images began to fill my mind again, this time sharper, more personal, not abstract human kindness but history itself, snippets of humanity's choices compressed into feeling rather than fact. I felt rivers drying under scorching suns. I felt cities swallowed by fire. I felt the despair of people crushed by greed, cruelty, ignorance. And then, almost immediately afterward, I felt hands reaching out, people lifting strangers from rubble, sharing water, sharing warmth, holding one another through chaos. It was overwhelming. My chest ached as if I were carrying not just myself but everyone at once. I gasped and staggered slightly. "Do you see now?" the voice asked inside my head. "Your kind carries fire. With it, you may burn all. With it, you may preserve all. The choice of many begins with one." I whispered, almost brokenly, I don't know if I can bear it." "You are not expected to carry more than you can," it said. "Only to see, only to witness, only to remember. That is enough for this night. One is enough to begin." And for the first time, I understood. The encounter wasn't about me being heroic or wise. It was about presence, observation, and acknowledgement. One spark could grow into many. One choice could ripple outward. That alone was weighty enough. The shimmer behind it pulsed stronger. The being stepped back slowly, folding itself into the distortion in the air. My chest tightened with an ache I didn't expect. Loss, maybe, or loneliness, or the sudden knowledge that I might never see this again. It paused before completely vanishing, the colors dimming to faint silver. The voice came once more, soft but carrying a weight I couldn't shake. "One is enough to begin, remember." And then it was gone. The clearing felt impossibly empty. The forest noises returned, subtle and ordinary, a rustle in the leaves, a bird far above, the faint hum of wind. I stayed where I was, staring at the spot where the shimmer had been, trying to convince myself it wasn't a hallucination, a trick of the mind. But deep down, I knew it had happened, and I knew that some small part of me would never be the same again. I started the long walk back down the ridge trail, boots crunching softly over dirt and fallen leaves. The night was color now, but the warmth of the encounter lingered in my chest, a quiet pressure that refused to leave. I tried to replay every detail, the way it shimmered, the colors, the voice in my head, the flashes of human kindness and cruelty, but the more I tried, the more it slipped between certainty and memory. Was I remembering it, or was it still happening in some corner of the forest I couldn't see? The stars above me were unchanged, as ordinary as ever. The distant highway lights blinked steadily, oblivious, and yet I felt a subtle shift in myself, a reminder that the world was larger than I'd allowed it to feel, that possibility existed in ways I couldn't measure or control. Every step home felt different. Each tree, each rock, each familiar turn in the trail seemed more alive. I realized I had walked this path countless times, yet tonight it felt unrecognizable. I had crossed some invisible line, and there was no going back. Back in my room, I tried to write it all down. The journal pages filled with descriptions of light, colors, words that weren't words, feelings too vast to contain. I knew no one would believe me, but writing helped ground me. It made the impossible a little more tangible. Sleep didn't come that night, nor the next. Dreams were full of flashes, the shimmer, the warmth, the weight of human fire, the spark of one choice. Sometimes I woke gasping, unsure if the images were real or borrowed from memory. Even days later, small things felt altered, a neighbor helping carry groceries, a child sharing a toy, someone pausing to help a fallen animal. The world seemed heavier and yet brighter, full of quiet sparks I had only glimpsed before. I realized then that the encounter hadn't left me just with awe or fear, it left me with responsibility. Not responsibility to lead or decide for anyone, but responsibility to notice, to remember, and to act, however small my choices might be. The forest remains, as always, quiet and ordinary, but for me, the clearing is no longer just a place, it is a reminder. One spark can begin everything, one choice is enough, and sometimes, the extraordinary arrives in the most ordinary night, asking only that you stay.